first question I always ask is, some people might not know, like, because this does go beyond Crown a little bit. There are people. So tell me your name, tell me the area you live in, and what you do for a living.
Sweet. So I am Ryan Wheeler, and I live in Hudson, Wisconsin, just outside of like Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I own a commercial roofing company, and I also own a merch company that does shirts and all that fun stuff. So I've got a YouTube channel that is Lambo Fam, and I really enjoy doing that. My goal is someday to make money doing that, and that would be really cool. There's a there's a general chatter around the car scene that I make just stupid money on YouTube, and which is great because they must think my content's at least good enough to be making money. But YouTube does not pay bills very well.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So what originally got you into cars? Like, did your dad have cars? Was it just movies? Was it?
Oh, dude. So I've been into cars way back. So like I wanted a like 85 Monte Carlo SS was like my jam. That was what I wanted. So when I was 15, I remember getting ready to like we were getting close to like being able to drive and all that. And I'd gotten a free it was a 1988 Cutlass Calais. And it was free, but it had no brakes. Like the brakes, you had to like hold them to the floor. So you had to like try to stop like 300 feet, 400 feet away, even at like 20 miles an hour. And so we got that car and we would take it out and we'd go driving, like me and two buddies without our license. And I would actually drive that car up to my behind the wheel. And like the first time I got into my behind the wheel car, I like get in and then we're like 500 feet from a stop sign. And I just locked the brakes up. I just pushed him to the floor and the guy, and and it was just, he's like, oh, and then I panicked and I'm like, dude, sorry, the car I drove here. He's like, you drove here? Oh, well, no. And we parked back behind the school by the tennis courts. And, but then I couldn't really afford, I got my 85 Monte Carlo. I put the fake SS front end on it, and I was going to make that, like, that was like my jam. That was going to be my car. I had all these plans and we got a roll cage put in it and we ripped it all apart. And I never got anything done. And then I got into Hondas because I'm like, dude, I have no money. And these little Hondas are like, all these guys are building these little Hondas that are whooping up on all of us, 305 muscle car guys. And so I bought a CRX for $150. And I think I got the exhaust done on it for 200. And then I was broke. And then I motor swapped it and just saved my pennies, learned how to work on them. And then, and then the exotic car thing didn't even really come till 1320 started doing the videos with a Gallardo. And obviously I had like the Countach on my wall, like the Lambo.
Yeah.
It didn't even really know what it was or what they call anything. It was just kind of like you have that poster and the Michael Jordan poster, Right. And so I 1320 started putting out the videos in like, what was that? 04, 05. It was like the first Gallardos that, because I was right when 1320 was so ahead of the time when it came to video. And I remember seeing those videos that they would put out and I'd see these like Gallardos out racing. And I remember like that Ithaca green. I'm like, dude, yeah, I need one of those. And I remember looking at the dudes that were driving them and they're like, they're like mid 30s or 40. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like how in the world do those young guys have one of these, and it was just so far out there, but it was always something that I just kept like right there. And we wrenched on cars. And then, I would swap motors I mean, I had over 30 Civics that I owned and they were always just bartering. And my mom, we got in trouble. I had to go to court for running an illegal business out of my mom's house when I was 17. And I'm like, well, a business makes money. I don't make any money. All I do is barter back and forth. But we had like 30 tires outside and like there was coolant that was running out of motors into the yard. And yeah, it was nuts. But that's where my car kind of That's when I fell in love with wrenching on cars, was with little Civic CRXs back in, would have been like 2000, what, two, probably?
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. So that, I mean, you answered what the first car was, and I think this this generally lines up with the first car, but it might not. What's the worst car you've ever owned?
Oh man. The worst car I've ever owned. Oof. I mean, I've had a lot of really, really bad cars. I mean, I've had them as recent as like 3 weeks ago. I've had bad cars. I would probably say, um, probably that Cutlass Calais. I mean, it was, it was free.
Yeah,
And it didn't really have brakes or anything. And we didn't at that time know how to fix brakes and didn't have any money to fix them. And I drove that thing. I mean, I put miles on that car. And then, we'd use like the e-brake, but you have to hold the handle out because it was like a push one with your foot. So you get good, good driving.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Well, you now, I mean, you very recently got your new dream car, kind of, but there's always obviously the next one. I don't think any of us ever say, "Oh yeah, I'm happy now. I'm
Right.
satisfied," right?
Right.
So, what's the next dream car, I guess? Or
Uh,
what's just any dream car, like out of everything?
I so on my up here, right there. That's where I keep them. I kind of stagger them. That the first one is that is a black Gallardo, and that one's been sitting on my desk since I had absolutely no idea what I was doing in business. Was making no money whatsoever, and I would look at it every day. I've got a Centenario up there now, but realistically, or not, but more realistically, would be that matte gold, like a matte gold SVJ.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if there's no budget though? No, like no budget. You've got all the money in the world.
Oh, I mean, so I haven't had like any real experience around like the Paganis and the Koenigseggs and all those to really make like a
Right.
choice. But really, I mean, any of those would
Okay.
be yeah, pretty awesome. I love the look of them. When you go into like the Lamborghinis, like the Sian and all those, I don't know, I'm just not a huge. Once it goes past the SVJ, I'm just not a like I don't know. The SVJ just is so perfect to me. And then I think if I was going up from there, it would have to be in the like a Wyra or something.
Yeah. Right on. Um, so what's the current lineup of cars? Because I'm sure there's a lot, but
So right now we've got like three main cars. We've got the Huracan, we've got the Rolls Royce limo, which is a 1982 factory Rolls Royce Silver Spur 2 limo. That's probably the coolest thing I've ever owned in my whole life because it's just freaking awesome. And then I've got a 93 Civic Hatch that we just dynoed. It made right at 600 at the wheels.
okay.
And it weighs like 1,800 pounds of me in it.
What's the daily driver?
I drive a 2020 Denali Duramax crew cab truck. So,
Nice.
which is awesome. I love it, but it's always like it sits outside because my shop's always just full of cars and full of stuff. And people are like, dude, your nice truck. And I'm like, oh, it's I look at it as it's a work truck, but it's like it's amazing. I mean, it's 3 years ago what I would have dreamed to have. And now it sits outside and doesn't get washed.
I mean, I'm a truck and SUV guy before actually I got into cars. Like I've always liked cars, but I was always a truck and SUV guy. So I've always had like a pickup truck, and then like my daily driver was like a SUV. So I hear what you just said for a daily driver. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's a truck I'd like to have, but
Yeah, I love it. I do love the truck. And then like I just dread when summer comes. Like I had to like put my ladder rack on because I actually like have to like
I mean, you have to take care of the fun toys over
I know.
they're a little more rare. So you got to take care of the rare car over well, this is replaceable, even though it's still very nice.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I
So
totally get it. All right. So you have been on Crown Rally for a while, I guess, right?
yeah, I've done. I don't even know how many we've done. I don't know, 4 of them, I think,
Okay.
something like that.
So
Yeah.
how did you hear about it?
So I remember the first launch I went to was down in St. Paul. And I just remember because I was talking to, at the time, Justin, who had the red and white RWB. And then Swen had an orange Aventador. And I remember being down there and I had just bought my a Maserati Ghibli, Maserati Ghibli SQ4. And I was so pumped because I'm like, man, I'm going to get in and I'm going to do these rallies and all this stuff. And I remember being down there at the launch and it was my first time and Red Bull was there and like they had the big band. I'm like, holy cow, this is like a real thing. This is like not, I don't know what I was really expecting, but it was way, way different than what I was expecting. It was like real, like they had streets shut down. And I'm like, I used to get tickets when we'd try to shut streets down, you know, to street race. Like this is insanity. And I remember standing there and I was talking to one of the guys and I told him, I was like, I'm going to get a Gallardo and I'm going to do this next year. I'll be here. I already got it planned. I had no plans yet, but I knew I wanted to. And that just stuck with me. Like I'm doing this. I am doing this no matter what. And then, yeah, we did it the next year in my Gallardo. At the time it was, I guess it was white and then we got it wrapped right before. And like when I got my Gallardo, everything broke on it like instantly because I didn't realize because I'm like, dude, it's low miles, you know, it's in really good shape.
Yeah.
Problem was it was low miles and it was in really good shape. And my brain still works like I'm 16. So as soon as I got in it, it was just like, yeah,
Just go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
go, yeah, go and drive it hard and have fun with it. But then, you know, all the things that notoriously go wrong when they sit for a long time, they just all went wrong. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm getting estimates for it. And I'm like, 25,000?
Yeah.
I got like $8. I spent all my money to just buy this car. What do you mean 25 grand? I can't afford that. And so that it was kind of, you know, restructure, refigure out my whole life and work a lot harder and make more money.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what really convinced you to do Crown though? Just going to that event, seeing like, oh wow,
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Seeing it just with my own eyes, like in person, all the cars that were there, the people that were there. You know, when Red Bull pulls up with like their tank truck thing and DJs come out, I'm like, yeah, this is a thing. This is a thing I need to be a part of. And then, yeah, the people that I knew that were doing it were good people. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, that would be I need to get involved with that somehow, you know, whatever it takes to get involved. And then we did. And then now it's been awesome.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. So what do you think is probably your favorite thing about it? Like people, routes, food, whatever.
I would say the people for sure. I've always rallied my Gallardo, and if anyone's seen or been in my Gallardo, I've got a one-piece carbon seat. Well, until I got rid of it. The car has like all these little things, like quirks and things you need to know. And but with all the issues we had early on, we fixed, and every time we fixed something, we did it right. So the car was reliable, but like last year on West, we lost AC, and like my wife's sandal, it was the hottest. It was the hottest. So we were leaving the salt flats and it was the hottest I've ever been in my whole entire life. There was nothing you could do. We had the windows down and it was like, it didn't matter. Windows up, windows down. It was so hot. Engine was running insanely hot. And I finally got to where I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. Turn the radar detector off. We're going as fast as we can to get, because it's a couple hours, you know, to get like back to like Salt Lake or wherever. And my wife was sitting there with her leg, and one of her legs was up kind of on the center thing, and her sandal was sitting there, and it melted a part of her sandal on the center tunnel thing there in my car. Dude, it was so hot. It was so miserable. I swore we'd never do west. We'd never do a rally that was not north. Cause I'm like, I dropped my wife off in Salt Lake City. She flew home. I drove, went back, got my truck. And then it was like, by the time we pulled in the driveway, I'm like, dude, I can't wait till the next one. You like forget all that stuff, but that was that was a really hard, like driving that car.
Yeah.
made it very, you know, I never really doubted like it would make it, but it wasn't the most comfortable. We didn't have room to bring, you know, we had to we each got to bring like a backpack, and my wife's bag had to sit under her feet. And, you know, she wants to like have all her stuff to like makeup and
That's
all that stuff. And it's like, well, you can either bring your blow dryer for your hair or shoes.
right.
So
That was
take your pick.
that was one of the combos I had with like a little bit with Frank, but a little bit with Ross and Blair too. Was we were talking about like, I mean, Frank with the headsets and Paul too, having the windows down, having that. I was like, man, I couldn't do it. I was like, I like my car to just be loud when I accelerate, but quiet, no drone, listen to music, have a conversation, like windows up, AC on. And then we were talking about the packing thing with Ross and Blair because I have the CTSV, so plenty of room, right? Compared to a Porsche, compared to Ferrari, compared to Lamborghini. I had like a floor jack. I had like a huge thing with like oil and coolant and brake fluid and like detailed towels, detailed supplies, like everything you could think of. And then I'm talking to people and they're like, yo, we barely got like one travel bag.
Yeah.
It was like
You'd like go to the gas station, you have to kind of decide like, okay, am I going to drink water or just Red Bulls? Now, Red Bulls, I can fit more of them, but then they get hot really quick. And we didn't have a room for a like,
yeah,
I have like I bought the smallest little Yeti cooler. There's no room in the car for that. Like I gained double the room that I got in the car for my stuff when I put that carbon fiber one piece seat in, because now I could fit a little skinny backpack behind the seat. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, this is amazing. It's like a new car.
that's
But
hilarious.
that whole, yeah, having the AC and all that stuff is,
Well, the other conversation I had with Ross and Blair was like, we want to do West. Like West sounds like so much fun, especially like for a CTSV because it's not as twisty as South, from what I heard. Like, yes, there is, but there's also long open stretches.
Mhm.
And I was like, dude, I really want to do it, but 2 days to drive to Denver, 2 days to drive back from Vegas because I'm not going to ship my car. Like, I'm just not. I'd rather just do the drive. But I was like, that's almost 2 weeks vacation I have to take off pretty much just to do the rally. Where South, drive to Chicago, do South, come back to Indianapolis from Charlotte was 8 hours. And I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
You know, so plus it was in October, so it wasn't hot.
Yeah. Yeah. Logistically, there's so much that goes into. So I had only done North before, and then we decided to do West, and then I got a 2-car hauler, and then so we got all geared up. I ended up pulling my car, and then Grady's Trackhawk that Brad was going to drive, so that Grady's Carbon GTR could go in the enclosed trailer. So like the drive down there was sweet, and yeah, I mean, but it was, you know, because you've got the excitement of everything that's like upcoming. But that was an insane drive. And then we sucked my we were racing when we were hauling, we were racing Bud. I think it was, yeah, we were seeing who could go fastest with their trailer and their whole rig. And we're doing like 110 with our whole setup. And we were getting into elevation. We were 20 miles out from Denver, and my air filter collapsed and sucked into my intake in my truck, put it into limp mode. So we could get up to like, on downhills, we'd get to like 65. We drove the last like 30 miles in limp mode in my truck. Now I had to bring it to the dealership. So there was just so many things logistically that you're up against,
Yeah.
you know, and then we traveled with like 4 people or 4, you know, rigs, and that was cool. But I swore after that last one, like, if we're doing West again, which this year we kind of, at first we didn't even plan to do West, and then we're like, well, we went back and forth, and then as soon as I knew we were getting rid of the Gallardo and getting the Huracan, I'm like, oh. And then my wife's like, I'm booking it. I'm booking.
I saw the
Yeah, I'm booking transfer. I'm booking flights. I'm booking all this, and I'm like, okay, well, let's do this.
I watched the video with you answering the phone and her talking about enclosed, and I was dying laughing because it was just like, I mean, it's so funny, but everything. And I was just like, man, I mean, it turns it into like two weeks if you're not doing transport. So it's like, I don't know, like I don't have that much time. I really don't.
Yeah,
And
it's a crazy commitment, and there's a lot that goes into it. And then, but it's kind of like one of those, like once you're there,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not
it's like,
like I want to do it, and someday I definitely will. Like, but for now, it's like, man, I just don't. I can't. I can't do it. Like, I can't
yeah,
swing that. And South is also the other thing is I just don't like heat. So South is like perfect because it's October. It's nice and cool. You're going through the mountains, and it's like, all right, this is great. But
yeah, I'm excited for South. I've never done the South Rally,
oh,
and
really
we're doing it this year. So we're doing the trio. We're doing all three of them.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I got to work a lot. And
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. I
dude,
mean,
yeah, it's totally worth it. It's my wife and I's like, it's the number one thing we look forward to all year is that, I mean, we take a Mexico vacation each year around our anniversary in December, get out of the house, get down there for a week. And, but that's a blast. But this, like, I look forward to the rally because it's me and her, it's go, go, go. I love the adrenaline and the speed and all the things that come along with it because it's chaos.
oh yeah,
When people are like, what's it like? I'm like, well, I don't even know how. I mean, it's like from the second you leave your house to the second you get home, like when you're done with the rally, you are beat. Like
yep,
you're dead tired. You have to just unwind and like take a day, 2 days, 3 days. And
yeah,
then with my Gardo, it was like you got to put the pieces back together. We got to figure out what all, what did we wreck? Are our brakes completely shot? What's leaking? And but
yeah.
she made it every time.
It's crazy. So, um, on the personal side, so we both gave up drinking. I quit drinking. I guess it's been almost 6 years, and I didn't quit for any real reason. I just woke up one day and I was like, you know what? I think I partied enough. Like, I think I'm just gonna stop. I wasn't even hungover. There was nothing like crazy that happened in my life, and I wasn't like I wasn't somebody that drank during the week or drank alone. Like I was a social drinker, like on the weekends. But the problem was
Yeah,
I was like Frank the Tank, where it was like, well, I couldn't have one. It was like we're
it
going.
makes no sense to
Yeah,
have
I
one.
was like, if we're gonna drink, we're gonna do like a case and like 10 shots, and we're just gonna have fun. Like that was my life. And it wasn't like a big fat. It didn't. In hindsight, I think what I was gonna ask is for me psychologically, that actually hampered a lot of things for me, right? So when you have that crutch kind of to fall back on when you're drinking, it's like, and I did drink a lot like after a bad breakup, but that's the perfect example of what I'm talking about in the sense of like you're drinking, you kind of use that as your excuse to not deal with maybe some internal things. And then the minute that I quit drinking, though, I was like, man, stuff that used to bother me for 3 weeks is now like laughable. I was like, stuff that like I didn't think I could deal with, I can deal with. I was like, motivation's completely different. Like your drive's completely different. Like life's just completely different. And I'm not saying people that drink are dumb for drinking. Like, do what you want. If you can control your life and do it, like that's fine. I don't care. I still go to the bars with my buddies and like go to
Yeah,
parties. But it's just for me, I'm like, you know what? And then now the thought like of cracking open a beer almost gives me dry heaves because I think about the smell of like a
yeah,
Miller
yeah.
Lite and I'm like, oh, I can't even. So my question, because dude, like I've only watched your videos. As I said, like this is our first time really talking, and videos are super positive. You're definitely a motivated person, definitely a
Yeah, I
driven person. So
yeah,
do
I
you
try to
think
be.
do you think well, do you think not drinking helped increase that though?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. I mean, it's changed completely. So my drink, first of all, I was like one of the best drinkers you would have ever met in your whole life. And I had this insanely skilled skill set of being able to be the drunkest and drive still, which is horrible. And I had a handful of things that happened between being pulled over, like where my life could have completely flipped upside down. And it didn't, thank God. But when I quit my drinking career, I was at a rock bottom point. I
Okay.
had drank myself to where if I didn't quit drinking, I was almost died and I would have been dead. And it was, and I didn't get in bar fights. I didn't get in, like, dude, people loved having me around when I was drinking because that was fun. The problem was I had a wife and a child that were at home and I was out. And as soon as I was drinking, like none of that mattered to me, which is crazy. Like if when I sit and think, and my wife and I'll talk now about this, like it's hard to even talk about with her because I feel like such a douchebag for how badly I treated her and my son and when he was young. And yeah, so then I had just yeah, I mean, I remember the night very specifically that I quit drinking. I remember being there and basically saying, if I live through this night, I'm going to change every single aspect of my whole life,
Yeah.
every bit of it. And I'm going to do it starting if like tomorrow, if I'm still here. And then I lived and then I had to go home and my wife she had actually moved out, took our son and everything. And it was brutal. Like that was such an eye opener, especially because like you were saying, it was easy for me because I knew all I had to do, I just go back to drinking,
Yeah.
go back to partying, go back to doing my thing. And I was working I was a commercial roofer in the union, and that trade is a place of that. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I was kind of the ringleader in our group of it, but I was. But when I had stopped and like made that conscious decision that I was just done, that was the worst part because I didn't have anything that could just block out all those feelings and all the, you'd sit there and you just think about all the things in the last, well, it had been a few years, but it got real bad towards the end, last like 6 months. And I'm like, geez, who am I? What am I doing? Like, who was I and who am I? And then, yeah, from there, I just made had to, send in my wife flowers and she's basically telling me to get lost, dude. I hear this every time you screw up is that you're going to change. And now this time was different because I knew I was done. I was done. And but she didn't, like, here's but 30 times you've told me the same story. Prove it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, shoot. That sucks. So yeah, dude, then I just, I can't even, I mean, and like you were saying, I have no problem. Like, I have fun being out at the bars. I have fun being around people that are drinking. That doesn't bug me. None of that stuff bugs me anymore. But for me, I mean, my life is, I mean, when that happened, I had nothing. I
Yeah.
had literally nothing. Um, and no, I mean, I was making good money. I was making almost $40 an hour in the union, but $40 an hour when you get, rain days and you don't always work and your insurance isn't always up to date. And like, you have all these things. Like if I had over $500 in my account, like, that's how much I would spend at the bar
Yeah.
I mean, I would overdraw guaranteed, like, once every 2 weeks drinking and partying. Like, so it was just like, I can't even, it's like two totally different worlds. And like, I try to kind of, I don't ever push not drinking on anybody that's not ready to actually make a change. Cause I don't care. Like, I know what it did for me. Some people, dude, that can handle themselves. I couldn't. Like, I partied as soon as I was drinking. Like, we weren't stopping. And like, you're not going to bed. You don't get to just go to sleep when you've already started drinking. Like, you sleep when you can't stay up anymore. And so yeah, it's now to look back and to see like where my life is and like how, because at like 6 a.m. my brain works just like it does at noon, and then just like it does at 5, just like it does at midnight. And there's to me, that's been the biggest thing, is like my mental clarity stays just straight across the board. And I still have, crazy rough stuff that I deal with and just shit,
Yeah.
but it doesn't not drinking, you can work right through all that,
Yeah.
And I work a ton on, I mean, some, some people are into it, some people aren't, but like my mental health in the past 5 years now is, I mean, I work on it reading and listening to podcasts. Like I don't listen to the radio hardly at all. It's always podcasts and like just trying to always better myself. And because like, I want to get like a jet and like all that sweet stuff. And now I've got this, my family that now obviously everything is amazing with my wife. And that's my number one relationship that matters in my whole life, is making sure that me and her's relationship is good and that me and her can raise these kids to have the best possible chance at this crazy thing called life
Yeah.
that they have, and that's, so now my purpose is just so much bigger than, just me in the bar. So
Right. No, that's awesome. I think, I mean, it's a little bit yours typed into drinking, but I think maybe her being like, yeah, I'm done, and then winning it over. That is the rock bottom, but that showed you like how you got to make sure that you're on the up and up. Basically, you got to be always improving. And like for me, I got sick. Oh, I guess it was 7 years ago now. Was in the hospital for 17, 18 days, not from drinking, but from something else. Doctors were like, he would have died if he wouldn't have gotten here when he did. And the first couple of days are like, man, this isn't looking so good. But that was kind of like my rock bottom, not related to drinking, but just it changed my mentality about life. Right.
mhm.
So you hit the lowest of low is the minute that everything's like, oh, everything's easy compared to this. Like there's, stuff that like I said with drinking that might bother me for like 3 weeks. Now I'm like 5 seconds later, I'm like, I don't even know. I just wasted 5 seconds on something that I shouldn't even waste 5 seconds on.
Yep.
So I think there's that, like, and then when you're able to do that, not drinking, it really, really helps because suddenly, like, somebody pissed you off and maybe you're drinking and you're like, well, she broke my heart, whatever it was. Now it's like, all right, so how do I fix that? How do I actually make this work, or how do I actually like get through this without drinking every day for the next 6 months?
Yep.
So for me, I think like her giving you that threat of like, hey, this is over, and then you quitting drinking, like those two definitely link up to change the mentality of,
Oh yeah.
because
Especially because it was, I realized real quickly as soon as I made that decision, and I knew I was sticking to it. Like this is like I have to put all my mental power into this because I will end up dead very, 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 very soon. And I'm like, but now, how do I like? All of a sudden, it was like everything that I was doing. It was like I was able to sit there and look and be like, holy like,
yeah,
what am I thinking?
yeah,
But it took that because all the other times I knew I'd come home and she's right there. And yeah, she's mad, but she's always mad at me because I'm always kind of a piece of shit. As bad as it sounds and as bad as that part is to think about, and I hold that now. Like, so when my daughter was born, that was one of the biggest things that I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be, even if it means we cut way back on business, we make less money, my stress levels have to go way down and I have to be there for all of her stuff because I wasn't for my son. And like that stuff at his age when it was like, is he ever going to remember? Probably not.
yeah,
Well, yes, forever, but now it's like now every single day I wake up, I have something to prove like to them, always making sure that, my family's taken care of and that's like, I want to leave a life that's, a legacy behind. I don't want to leave just, oh, here's a little bit of, you got some debt and you got this and you got this. I want to have something that stays way past any of that where, the kids are proud to have had the dad they had. And then, I want them to grow up and be, have someone to look up to. So, and then I also, a big thing for me has been, like I'd go to the park with the kids and like, I'd see these parents that just couldn't physically like do anything with their kids, because they're just, I mean, sitting at the park smoking cigarettes and like just being unhealthy. I'm like, man, I got to get my ass in shape. Like I got to stay ahead of these kids.
Yeah.
I don't ever want my kids to pass me up as far as who can, who can outrun. Like, I'm going to keep my son, he ain't never going to be able to outrun me.
Well, I mean, that's kind of perfect tie-in because, as like you have so much going on. So between the family, the business, taking on merch, YouTube. So, I mean, what is it is it really just providing for the families? What you're like, all right, another iron in the fire, another iron in the fire.
So honestly, there's like, yeah, it's providing for my family. And because I want to like the lifestyle that I want to live is I want to wake up when I decide to wake up. I want to go to bed when on my terms. I don't want to ever be on anybody else's terms. And I would make a horrible employee. There's nothing wrong with being an employee. I just would not be a good one.
Right.
Um, and then that whole being able to leave like I don't know, just being able to do whatever I want whenever I want is obviously my goal. And then but also trying to keep sort of a balance because I get so into I mean I look back at like when I was building my company and like I used to always have a trailer with me and there was never a time that I wasn't on Craigslist leaving a job site that I wasn't like, oh, we got extra room in the trailer. Let's go pick up some brush or debris or something, put a little ad on Craigslist, 50 extra bucks, 100 extra bucks. But I was never home. So
Yeah.
now it's building something that is sustainable, that runs for me, that is, I can do stuff at home, still being around the kids. That's my goal. And because I want like an airplane and stuff.
But happiness, it sounds like happiness is the
Yeah.
main drive, like just for everybody involved is, hey, let's make a better life. I mean, yeah, it's just wild because you're definitely not somebody that stays stagnant from what I've noticed. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that makes me go insane. It's like I have a lot of buddies that just stayed. They're just like, well, I'm good. I'm like, but you could be a little bit better.
Yep.
And once you get a little bit better, you'll want to get a little bit better on top of that. And
Yep.
so, I'm going back to school just because I was like, man, I don't want to lawn care business pays the bills. I'm not rolling in dough by any stretch of but going back to school, I was like, this gives me an opportunity to keep the lawn care business, but have a 9 to 5 and,
Yeah.
do things. But yeah, it's wild to watch because I started watching your stuff a while ago. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, the YouTube's taken off. And then there's a merch company now. And then there's, so it's just wild. It's inspiring though, because you got the car you wanted. Then all of a sudden there's this one comment made to get a limo. And then there's so it's inspiring though. And I mean, I think that's also one of the really cool things about Crown is you meet people from all different walks of life. And some people you just watch and you can sit back and see. Like, I mean, Paul is with the amount of money he raises for everything, like that's so inspiring to me. Like we got into it, and I've told this story, but we got into it. I didn't really know the charity aspect that much. I did another rally. It wasn't the forefront, right? So that wasn't the main concern for them was let's have fun, let's drive cars fast.
Yep.
You get there and you realize, no. The charity aspect on Crown is real, and it's a very big factor. So I was going through the numbers when I got home, and I see how much like Paul donated, and I go, well, I'm never gonna be that guy, but let's try to do the best we can now. And so, it inspired me to be like, hey, I'm gonna do as much as I can to add to this. But
Yeah.
it's wild.
It is. And so Paul's like one of my best friends. He's part of our team. I'm sure I've got something from Agave back here. And we're actually we just started, it's going to be out on my YouTube channel and like probably next week will be the first one, but we're doing Nacho Average Car and we're giving away free Nacho cards. And then we're going to do like a event for everyone that wins it. So every car show we go to, we're going to be picking out our favorite car. It doesn't have to be, I mean, I love my Civics. I love sleepers. I love anything that's out of the ordinary is like, that's my jam, And like, I used to go to the meets with like the Civic meets. Well, I had a Gallardo and I'd show up and I'd start talking to them and they're like, what are you even doing? Like, you don't care about, I'm like, no, these are my jam. This was a dream. These are my,
Yeah.
this is my jam right here. I love this. I love the cars. I love wrench. I love them. And that's why I built the Civic that I have now. Cause I had so many people that were like questioning, why are you coming to look at our stuff? But so we're doing this nacho average car challenge deal. And then we are going to, one of my, so he, I bring this all back together, but so for him with the fundraising, we were kind of would do it as a group, but then it's like, dude, why are we doing this as a group? Like, he raised all the money. He's so good at it. He's so good with the way he does things, and he's such a good person. My problem is I'll post about it and I'll get, 10 messages. They're like, really? You're asking us for money so you can go do a rally and you've already got a Lambo. And I'm like, well, no, that's not how this works. And I do donate my own money. And we've done that when we had all the kids sitting in the cars. Like, I donate all that money out of my own pocket because I can't bring myself to get talked to the way I get talked to by people. Every time I post, I'll get people that message me and they're like, hey, you have a Lambo, you donate the money. Why are you asking us? I'm like, no, but you don't understand. And I explained to them, like, we pay our way into the rally.
Yeah.
This money is donated. This rally is for a good cause. They're like, oh, so a bunch of rich people can, and I'm like, well, you're not it's so hard for me to deal with that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it sucks because I want to be able to raise money. And then I'm like, well, I'm just going to donate my own money. And I don't know what else to, what I mean? It's
No,
hard because some people look at it differently.
we're in the same boat. I mean, I don't own a freaking Lambo or a limo or any of that, but my buddy,
A limo cheap. I mean, you could own a limo.
but my buddies kind of are the same thing. They're like, it looks like you're rolling in dough. Like, why are you asking us? And I'm like, it's for charity, dude. Like, it's not for me. I'm not buying snacks at the gas station with the money you buy me.
Right. They seem to think it goes right into your pocket.
Yeah. And then the other thing, like, so this year, now that the weather's warming up, I talked to people and I was like, dude, I used to detail. Like, I like to detail cars. I was like, if you need your car washed or detailed, like, I'll do that and just give me money and it will go straight to the charity. I was like, I'll do what I can to raise money. I was like, if you don't feel like just giving me money for a good cause, because you should be a good human is okay, then we will barter some way for me to get your donation and I will give you a service. If I got to freaking smoke a brisket for you to eat, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
it is, and it's fun to see how other people do it, what they do with, with how, I love seeing, we get so many people into Agave, into Paul's restaurants. And like, people are like, dude, you're always there. And I'm like, you should see how often I'm really there. You only see like 1/3 of when I'm actually, like, we go every day. I pick up, I'm doing a challenge right now, a 75-day challenge. So what I can eat from there now is down to not very many things. But still, picking up stuff, it's just so easy to grab. And it's someone who is doing good things that I support, and I love seeing how he's raising money, what he's doing to raise money. It makes me feel terrible because I'm like, dude, I put up a post and I just have to deal with people, questioning me and just being pricks. But
no, it's uncomfortable though, because like, it really is. I don't tell people my finances. Like, I don't broadcast.
Yeah.
I post pictures of the car, but I'm that cheap guy too. Like, I'm super cheap. Like, I built an outdoor kitchen and it doesn't look like $1 million, but it functions. You know what I mean? But I was like, why would I pay $3,000 for that when I can build it for like 200? And then it's the other thing of like, I make the joke, when I have the money, I will buy a Porsche. But when I bought my CTSV and when I bought my Corvette, I looked at Porsche and I did call him. I was like, hey, how much is an oil and filter change? The guy's like $350. And I was like, Like,
Bye.
yeah. And then I call the Chevy dealership. I'm like, hey, on a Corvette, how much do I want filter change? Guy's like, oh, like $70. And I'm like, winner,
Winner.
like,
Yeah, so it's funny because even now when I go into, I was at Eurotech last week because we did some installs on the Huracan and they didn't go quite as they were supposed to. I'm used to my Gallardo where it was like you could put it on 2 blocks of wood, slide it down a hill with no intakes on it and missing the exhaust manifolds, and it just runs. It's like a Glock. It just keeps going.
yeah.
This thing's like super smart, and like the computer knows all the things. And so we put aftermarket intakes, titanium intakes in it, and we went out, ran it on a draggy. It was sweet. It felt really fast. Everything was good. I had ESC faults, check engine light, I had everything. And I'm like, holy cow, what did we do? So I'm using my little scan tool, and then I'm calling. They're like, well, just bring it in. I'm like, you guys literally, I'm the cheapest Lamborghini owner in the world. And
Yeah.
people see the car and they just assume like,
Yeah.
you're rich. You just have stupid money. I'm like, no, I am poor because I decided that I'm going to own this car.
Exactly. That's
And
the thing.
dude, now I'm broke and there's no shame in my game. Like,
No.
I am not rich. And
That's my favorite thing is there's always the assumption that they see the car and they see the rally and they're like, oh, this guy's like a multimillionaire. And it's like, couldn't be farther than the truth. Like
I have like $8
me.
when I'm leaving for this rally. So nothing can go wrong.
Yeah. So it's hilarious. But so that's kind of perfect because brought up the car and YouTube. So what got you into doing the YouTube stuff?
So honestly, I went, and this is pretty awesome. But so I was mentoring in the schools during the winter. When I would go in, they would I had to do something because I was doing snow plowing. And then when I wasn't snow plowing, I just felt like I was wasting kind of my time. Like I should be doing something positive. I never like mentored with kids. Like I had my own kids, but that's different. And so I went in, I signed up to read with kids, and I signed up for 15 minutes a week because I'm like, that's enough. I don't know these kids.
Right.
And so I went in, did that for like 2 or 3 weeks, and my wife said, well, how is it? I'm like, it's terrible. I don't know how to talk to these kids because they're not my kids. I don't know how you're supposed to like treat kids that aren't your own kids. And like, some are like, oh, you're like my mentor, I'm supposed to hug you, and I don't know the right thing to do. And it's weird. It's a weird thing. And then after like a month, all of a sudden it was like, dude, this is my jam. Like working in the schools, volunteering, it made me feel so good. I just got to where I built these relationships with these kids that looked up to me. And then, I have tattoos all over. And then they found out that I had a Lamborghini. And then I started, spring came, I started driving the Lamborghini, up to mentoring and up to reading. And then this buzz started around the school with these kids. These are all elementary school kids and my son went to school here as well. The rumor started that I was a YouTuber because that's the only way you can have tattoos, be young, and have a Lamborghini. So they were dead set that I'm a YouTuber. And then they came up with the idea that the reason I wouldn't tell them I was a YouTuber was because I swore, because I have tattoos, so I probably swear. So, I mean, they were dead set that this was a thing. And then I did a video with Tall Guy, Corey, and Mr. Organic, who were local here. They're out in LA now. And I was telling him about the kids and all the stuff. And in the video, he just straight puts on there, he's like, man, make sure you go check out my boy Lambo Dad's YouTube channel. And I'm like, what? He's like, you got 2 days to get a YouTube channel up. And at the time, dude, I was deathly afraid. I remember February of 2018. I was deathly afraid. Like if you were like $1 million, if you put up a 30-second like Instagram or Facebook live with no filters, no nothing, I couldn't do it for $1 million. I could not get in front of a camera. So I went to an event, 10X out in, I think, February in Vegas of 2018. And that's what I decided I was going to do, was I had to get comfortable on video. So like, dude, if you go back and watch some of my first YouTube videos, like I could go watch them and I just cringe because I remember like I'm just sweating. I'm so scared. I'm so and it's just me standing there. But I had no, I mean, it was so it became something where I was like, dude, I'm doing this and I'm just gonna, because I have to get better for myself, because I mean, video is everything, nowadays with any marketing, any sort of anything, video. And then being comfortable to do stuff like, this. We didn't know a pandemic was going to happen and Zoom was going to be like a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and now it's just, there's so, I love doing it. I love doing the content. I've actually got Buds up here now, and he's become a huge part of my channel. Is And it's so nice to have someone to bounce stuff back and forth off of. And dude, the kids love it. I It's a lot of work. It's the hardest thing I've ever done with no real return.
Yeah.
So, when people, and there, so many people think that we had heard some people at this last car show last weekend. My wife was in the car and the windows are black in my car now. And there's like these guys standing around the car and they were the one was telling his buddy, he's like, yeah, he's like best friends with Stradman. It's like, well, we've done a video with him. Dude, that's cool. And he's like, yeah, he's making like over $100,000 a month just from YouTube. That's how he bought this car. He crushes it. And I'm going, and then my wife's telling me, she's just laughing and laughing. Little they know, I made, I think, $95 last month for my YouTube channel. So pretty major, pretty much pays for like 1/10 of the videos we do, but it's, but it's crazy to see what people's from the outside, what they think, which to me, I'm like, dude, if you think my content could bring in $100K a month, that's incredible.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that you mentioning the Buds up there, it's perfect because you guys, the relationship between you two just comes off perfect. Like it's completely genuine, you can tell. But I'm gonna take it that having him involved actually helps you a lot.
It does, dude. And I didn't realize, because I've tried to with some other people, like, hey, dude, you want to be in a video, or you want to? And so many people, the camera comes out and they're like, they just freeze up. They don't want to do anything. Nothing's normal. And I didn't even, with Bud, we didn't even talk about it being a thing.
Yeah.
But we were just doing, our hood rat stuff. Like there's cars that crash. And I mean, there's just all these things. And he was just hanging out more often. And I'm like, well, it gets awkward when you bring a camera out to someone that doesn't want a camera there.
Yeah.
It completely changes everything. And I'm like, well, you're going with me on this trip. If you'd like, we're going. Yeah, I'm in 100%. I'm in.
Yeah.
And he was totally comfortable with being on camera. And then, so like exactly what you see in the videos is exactly, a lot of it's had to been edited down to like a PG version. But it's what you see really how it is when we hang out, and you can't fake that, and people recognize it. And it's so nice to have someone to bounce, to go back and forth with, because it changes the complete dynamic of all the videos.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was the guy that was guilty of not wanting a camera in my face. Like when we did South, the guy, Extalgic, did his series. So he was my co-pilot. And he would try to get stuff out of me, and I just did not give it to him. Because honestly, like, he would be in the hotel when we get to the hotel and I'm laying in bed and he's trying to ask me stuff. And I'm like, dude, I just drove like all day.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted and you want to talk to me about stuff. And like, it's funny because him and I are good buddies. So like now he has a professional job now from his YouTube channel. So he got hired to do content for Extreme Experience, the company that rents out the supercars at tracks.
Yep.
He's doing all their videos. So like, I just started, and I only have maybe like 5-6 videos or something that I've done that aren't these. And he was watching one last night. He sent me a text. He's like, hey, can I call you? And I was like, yeah, 5 minutes. He's like, I just want to yell at you for your camera settings. I hate them.
Dude, it's so funny because I've gone back and forth on this, and I've tried. Like, I worked with, Humanari. He does the pranks. He's got 10 million subs or something. I reached out through a buddy, and I was like, how do I work with that dude? I want to talk to that dude. I don't want to talk to someone with 5,000 subs. I want to talk to someone with like 1 million. I want to know. And I became friends with like Dave and Damon. And I'd FaceTime with them a couple times, like trying to just figure this YouTube thing out, you know?
Yeah.
And then I went out and did a video in LA, did a video with Damon. I got to ride with them for a little bit, and like I'm all pumped. I'm like, this is it. This is a viral video. I got it. And you know, like 8 people watched it, and it was pretty much just my wife. So and I'm like, shit, what did I miss? Like what happened, you know? And so I really started digging deep into YouTube. And it when I worked with Human, he's like, dude, your camera, he's like, I looked through your stuff, your camera settings are trash. He's like, go buy a Sony A7 III R or something, buy this lens, buy this, buy this, buy this. So I go and I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm committed. So I go on Amazon, I buy everything. It's like $7,000.
Yep.
Like, what did I just do? Like, what just happened? The thing shows up. It's like walking around with a freaking cinder block. The thing is massive. You couldn't do anything. It doesn't fit in the car with a mic on it. Like, and I found out, and then all of a sudden my content started just taking a complete dump because I was worrying about camera settings. And then I'd go from light to dark, and I was using these manual camera settings. And then my whole video would just be, it'd be like looking at the top of the screen, just black. And I'm like, what is this getting me? And I'd forget to turn my mic on, so then you wouldn't hear anything. And so I sold it within 3 weeks, sold all my gear. And I went back to a basic, my Canon M50 mirrorless with my 11 to 22, like, you know, little wide angle lens. And I still get guys that reach out and they're like, dude, you've got to run that thing on manual, and you got to do this, this, this. I've watched all the videos. I'm like, dude, I flip it on automatic and it gets what it gets. I know guys that have 1 million subs and they've filmed on their phone to get to it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, but he just is giving me crap because he's like, it was washed out. And I said it was washed out. And he's like, yeah, we got to talk about the camera settings. And I'm like, whatever, man, we'll get there when we get there. I was like, why don't you give me like 20 videos total before we start really getting, and I actually have a Sony. I don't have the one that he told you to buy. I have like right below that. So it's like a decent camera, but you're talking about like the heavy, it is heavy. It is pretty big. And especially I usually use like a 30 Sigma lens, which is like that big, and it weighs a lot. Yeah. So it is, like I get a workout in whenever I film, because it's like doing that for freaking 5 minutes with like a 4 or 5 pound camera, trying to hold it still. So
yeah, no joke. That's what, dude, that little Sony or that little Canon M50 mirrorless that I use, I just love it. We've got 2 of them now. I've got 2 different lenses, so we can be running, you know, and then GoPros, but I just try to keep it as simple as possible. Same camera body. Yeah. That way, if something happens, we've got 2 cameras there. But now in the car, like when you go rally, like our space is limited. I can't bring a whole Pelican case of stuff. It's like kind of you get what you get, you know.
Yeah, that's the other thing is I had somebody, it wasn't him because he's a buddy. So I'm like, dude, you can give me criticism and I'll try to take it in. I can't promise it's going to stay there. It might fly out the other end. But I had some random dude, which is just YouTube. That's just how it happens. Somebody's always got something to say to you. And the guy was like, he said something about my camera settings. And I just responded with, well, what would you suggest? And he goes, I don't know. And I asked him, I was like, so do you film videos? Because I went to your profile and you don't have any videos. And he was like, no, but yours are trash. That's
dude.
I was like, I don't really care what you think right now, though, just to let you know. I was like, I was actually reaching out to get constructive criticism to get better. And you just like basically are like, I'm just a jerk.
Yeah. So I was doing, so my videos, I used to put a transition. I didn't know how to edit. I had no clue. I'd never edited anything. So I would just put like the fade transition in on every clip, you know, just in and out. And that's what I thought that's how you did it. And I'd never watched YouTube videos on it. Well, so we went and did the videos with Stratton Burlackers. We went out to Utah, and like leading up to that, there was this one dude, and every time he's like, dude, and he would tell me, he's like, your transitions suck. They drive me crazy. I'm about to quit watching, but I like your content. Right. I'm like, well, which is it? Like, bro, you know, so then I'm like, well, maybe he's onto something. And then there'd be comments under him like, yeah, right. Who does that? And I'm like, well, what should I do? And he's like, oh, you do solid cuts or straight cuts or something. And I'm like, Googling like what is a straight cut editing. And then I actually did what he said. And then the next video, he writes this long thing, dude, so much better. I love this. But I used to let comments everywhere. Like I had very, very soft skin. Like it would hurt my feelings. Like when people would say stuff, especially early on when I got my Gallardo and I was just on Instagram and I was building my Instagram up, and like I'd get like hate, like, dude, you ruined that car. You should kill yourself. And I'm going, oh man, I can't be on here anymore. And then, as it progressed, I mean, it's gotten way better. But like I talked to Stradman, I told him, because I'd go in there, man. I'd put my helmet on and get the sword, man. When someone would talk trash in my comments, I'm like, oh yeah, what's your, and he's
Right.
like, oh no. That's why I asked him, so what do you do? He said, oh, you don't even give them one single anything,
Yeah.
nothing. You just go right past them.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you don't sit and fight? I mean, you don't look up, try to find out where they live and stuff, pay them a visit.
That
No.
is the one
No,
thing
no.
I have going for me. Like I'm not at that point yet where I have tons of people talking trash, but I have very, very thick skin. Like it takes a lot to get me mad. And
Yeah, I'm getting
part of,
better.
part of that comes from being a bouncer at bars on a camp at Purdue University, like a major school. Like, so I just grew that thick skin of like, you can say what you want. Like, it doesn't matter to me. You're not like, I'm going to go to bed. I'm not going to think about you after the period in the end of your sentence. It's over. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care. But yeah, it's tough. And that's one of the things that like, I have a couple buddies that do it also. And they're kind of the same way. Like they still get angry. I'm like, why are you wasting a minute of your time on them, dude? Like, just, it doesn't matter. It's some kid who lives in his parents' basement who like drinks Mountain Dew and eats Cheetos nonstop that's just like miserable with his own life that wants to bring it into yours. Like, don't worry about it. And the
Yeah,
positive mentality thing of just like, you got to worry about yourself. That's all you have to worry about.
that was the worst for me. I hated that, especially early on. I hated that. And I got a lot in the local car scene because I always post my videos of like MNCEC and like all those pages that get, Wisconsin Car Enthusiast Club, which
Yeah.
is not a page to be posting anything. But I'd post, in all of those. And then I'd have people that were like local that would just have something to say and they'd want to just come in at me. And I'm like, we've never met. And you're bringing in like my personal life, some assumptions you're making about me to people that actually know me. Like what is the reasoning here?
Just they're not.
Like I don't get it. And now that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't notice much anymore. I mean, it's whatever. I don't care now.
All it is people aren't happy with their own lives. They're trying to like push it on to other people. That's really what it boils down to. And that, it just takes a while to realize like, I mean, I don't kill them with kindness. I just ignore them. But
Yeah.
the other option is kill them with kindness. I mean, because, sometimes there are people like, I won't do it to random comments, but I have buddies that get snappy with me on like Facebook over stuff. And I end up calling them and I'm like, are you okay, dude? Like,
Yeah.
And they're like, actually, things are pretty bad, man. And I'm, I'm like, okay, because that, like, there's no need to take it out on me. Like, let's work through your situation, and then we can talk about me. But
Right.
that's all.
Yeah,
it is.
you don't need to go on my public profile and
But the other thing, and I think the car scene is actually kind of toxic, right? Like, I don't want to say that in a negative way. Like Crown is not. That
Right.
was a huge sigh of relief when I did Crown, was to find out that genuinely everybody's very nice. Nobody's, crappy. Well, that I noticed at least, we'll put it that way. But I didn't see any negative interactions. I didn't see people being rude to each other. But if I go to my local Cars and Coffee, there's dudes that are like talking smack about everybody's car. And I'm like, why? What do you drive? What do you drive? Like, and the guy's like, well, of a Toyota Corolla. And I'm like, you're talking smack about a McLaren because it's not the color you like. And then there's just the guys that are in it. And it's like, it's such a scene. Like, I don't go to Cars and Coffee. I don't go to car shows because of that. I just got to the point where I was like, everybody's so negative. Like nobody's happy. It's like, hey, we're out. The weather's nice. Let's just enjoy this.
Yeah, that's a big thing we put like on the channel because that was there's so much drama in
Yeah.
the car scene. And we keep our little the 715, our little car group.
Yeah.
You know, we get asked all the time, hey, can you guys come be a part of this and drive with us to this and this? It's like, dude, we just do our own thing. And we're friends before
Right.
car enthusiasts together. We're buddies. So like if none of us had cars, we'd still be hanging out. We just happen to still do the cars.
Yeah.
So and that's made it so easy to just not need to because and we get we get roped into all sorts of stuff because people will call me and they'll be like, hey dude, you're not gonna believe what happened. So this person said this. I'm like, oh dude, I don't care. Like I literally do not care. I'm sorry about that. I hope you guys can work it out. And then they're like, well, we're gonna take the high road. We're not gonna say nothing. And then they go for an hour to me, and then the other person they're talking about calls me like, dude, you're not gonna believe this.
Yeah.
I bet I know where this is going, but I'm cool. Like I got my own stuff to worry about, you know. Bud and I got to crash a car in the yard here quick. Like do.
Yeah. I think the funny thing is, I'll say this and then we'll go to something else. But the funniest thing for me is I met these guys. I did another rally. I met a core group. So there was like 4 of us. And we ended up getting out of that scene because of some moral stuff that we didn't really appreciate that the guy that organized the rally did. But the funny thing is I'm looking back on it and like one of the guys is a Porsche guy. And I always like jokingly was like, oh, they're the worst. Like I have the best, like they're the worst. And this guy's like in Porsche clubs. He goes to track events, like he's an instructor. He goes to the dealership for every single reveal. He's always there looking. And I'm like, he's the nicest guy. And he introduced me to other guys in that club. And I'm like, man, it's so funny that like the preconceived notion of like, oh, the Porsche dudes are going to be the biggest douchebags out of everybody. And they're legit like the most ride or die dudes because they're like, hey, we just want to have fun and drive.
Yeah.
That's it.
That was when I got my car. When I got my Lambo, I didn't realize, you know, people had told me kind of what it was like that had them. They're like, yeah, dude, just be ready like every gas station you go to. And then people that are close to your age or like a little bit older, there's this group of people and then they're just going to hate on you. And then there's this and there's this and there's this. And they were like totally right. And I have met a handful of people that own Lamborghinis that are complete douchebags, but I've also met so many of them that are such good people.
Yeah, for sure.
That's always what I've said. Like, I'm going to change that, you know, the stereotypical supercar owner, you know, by trying to just not be a douchebag. Yeah. And, you know, we pile kids in the cars and, you know, I've had my blinker broken off like 3 times putting kids in there, you know, and it's like, why do you let them do that? I'm like, dude, because that changed my life was when someone let me sit in an R8 for the first time. Like, I remember that piece of carbon right there. And I'm like, yeah, someday.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the last section of questions, just rapid fire. So don't have to elaborate, just rapid, but like there's 1 or 2 that you might elaborate on. Everybody does, but go to drink to have in the car on long drives.
Oh, probably sugar-free Red Bull.
Okay. Kelly Race would be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that for him. He actually sponsored that answer.
Must have item in the car.
Camera or radar detector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best song to drive to.
My exhaust. In the Gallardo, we hardly listen to anything. So I don't have a best driving song. Anytime I'm driving hard, there's no music on.
Okay, fair enough. I got Ross to say Sandstorm by Darude, and I thought that was the greatest answer of all time because that's one of the cheesiest songs ever, and I loved it.
Awesome.
Worst ticket you've gotten if it was speeding, how fast?
I got a 156 in a, I don't know, it was when I was 18. It was attempted vehicular manslaughter. Yeah. Yeah. I got two of them. That's why I was out of the car scene for a long time. I couldn't get insurance. So, but they weren't as bad as it sounds. That sounds really bad. They make that sound really bad. So, but I was topping out my car. I had a 2003 Evo Lancer Evolution. That was really fast. We were coming back from hot import nights in Chicago, and I was topping it out because why wouldn't you, you know? So yeah, we had 3 cars. We all got pulled over. The slowest one that they clocked was I think 123 or 127. And I was out in front of them and I was trying to get a picture of I remember the old Samsung camera. I was trying to get a picture of my Speedo maxed out and yeah, and we got stopped and
You got top speed prize so far.
yeah.
Nobody's above that one.
Yeah.
Favorite car related movie?
Oh, probably the original Fast and the Furious.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I expect from everybody. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
biggest pet peeve related to other drivers.
Biggest pet peeve related to other drivers is definitely sitting in the left lane.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I expect from everybody too. Honestly.
Yeah.
So,
And the other thing, there's another aspect to that one though, is like when it's people you're driving with that sit in your blind spots when you're driving together, or that jet from like far lanes and come up where and aren't watching that you should be making that pass where you run into that middle lane, which like Bud and I drive together quite a bit. But I mean, me, Bud, Grady, Paul, our whole group, when we drive together, you never have to worry about any of it. But then when you bring like someone new in and it's not their fault, but all of a sudden you're like, whoa, there's not supposed to be someone right here. That drives me insane.
yeah, that's why on the rally I just stand back. I'm like, whatever. We won't get in anybody's way. So, would you buy an electric or hybrid car, and if so, which one?
Oh, right now I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, I got nothing against them, but I like the sound and all the things. And yeah.
Fair enough. All right. What is the ugliest car in history?
Oh man. I cannot stand Priuses. I just so sorry, Paul, if you're watching this. Paul's got a Prius and his is the coolest one I've seen, but I just can't stand them.
My mom has one.
Yeah, I just can't because they're always in the left lane, sitting there doing the things so I just can't stand that weird looking back. I just can't. Drives me insane.
So you and Frank are the only two to not say the Pontiac Aztek.
The Pontiac Aztek's pretty bad looking, but it has a slight resemblance to now the Urus, so I can't even say anything about that because the Urus doesn't have the best body lines.
Yeah. That's actually what Ross said. He was like, I was checking he's like, it's weird. So
it's weird. It's strangely close if you were to like modify them a little bit. But yeah, the Aztek's pretty ugly.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because in certain colors I see it a lot more than other colors.
Yep.
So yellow, when they're both yellow, you really can kind of see.
Mm-hmm. Then they got the goofy that thing in the back that's like always just like light gray because it's faded every time, and then the front bumpers are different color. Yeah, those are ugly too.
All right. Are doing burnouts cool or not cool?
100% cool.
Okay.
Especially if you're like with our group, then they're cool.
Okay.
They got to be good ones though. I hang out with Bud a lot, and I've watched him shred tires from start to finish, brand new tires in, I mean, a minute. So
that is cool. See, I don't have a problem with them, but exactly what you just said. He goes through new tires. I'm like, I don't want to pay $1,600 for new tires all the time.
Right.
That's just my personal thing. That goes back to me being the cheap guy.
Look at that. It's funny you said that. Bud's sitting right here. Look at that. He just 24. This is for shipping for his tires. He had that just in his pocket. So that's
awesome. So two more questions. One is, what is your motto in life?
Work hard, dream big. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last one, super easy. And that is plug any social media or anything else you want to plug.
Just my YouTube and Instagram, pretty much. Lambo Fam is the YouTube. That was super easy to find. My Instagram is Lambo_dad with 2 Ds, DADD. And then I gotta plug Paul's for agave_kitchen, and then Bud's Auto Life for Instagram. Yeah,
I'll
and then
put
we have a team page too that and it's the 715, but it's 7 ONE
Okay.
5, right? Yeah, that's what it is.
When I edit this, I'll put everything in the comments.
Sweet.
Yeah, you'll have.
Sweet.
So, well, I really appreciate you doing it.
Dude, I love that you're doing these things. I was trying with my YouTube channel to do where I'd go and sit down and we do like interesting, kind of exactly what you're doing. I had tried that and it was so hard to coordinate. I think we did 2 of them, 1 or 2 of them, and they were great. They went over well. But the biggest thing for me was that I really enjoyed getting to know people. Like with this is awesome. And it's such a good way for other people too that don't know somebody. They can come in here and look and like, oh, who is this dude?